Welcome at the Innovation Café. We hope you all enjoyed the talk by Hugo today. The Innovation Café, for the people that have been here for the first time, it's a networking event, normally live with the audience, but due to COVID, we're online. And we always have some presentations or talks, always with a discussion or Q&A afterwards. And normally it's followed by drinks and dinner. And what we really try to do is to show what's going on in tech design and knowledge in Eindhoven and the region. Today, this edition is made possible by Foundation Art and Tech Society. And I just want to give the word to Mayra, who is representing Art and Tech Society. Can you please explain a little bit about Art and Tech Society?
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, Hugo, for the presentation. I just want to introduce Art and Tech Society. We are a new foundation in Eindhoven, the Netherlands. And we use art, technology, and leaderships as enablers for a more human and nature-centered prosperity. And one of our programs is cultural expeditions. And the last 3 months, we have been covered the topic technology and smart societies. And by the way, the presentation of Hugo is one of the last ones. And we will have, and I want to invite you, all of you, to join also a workshop, which is about envisioning near future, that is going to happen next Friday, December 18th. As well, and Hugo will be part of this workshop as well, if you also want to interact with him. So yeah, from my side is all. I will give the word to Hugo, and we will start the questions and answers with the people.
Great. Thank you, Mayra. Thank you, Margot. And thank you, everyone, for showing up. This is very heartwarming, and especially those of you calling in from India when it's so late. So thank you very much. Yeah, I tried to start answering some of the questions that showed up in YouTube, but otherwise I think I've spoken enough for now. So I'll invite you, any of you, to kind of come on and ask any questions you might have.
Maybe can I asking you one question?
Please.
I will make you one question, and then I will go to the public for the questions I have. And the question to you is that in your presentation, you say that we can create a better future only by collaborating with people, among people. But is not the power of positive competition underestimated in this approach? What do you think about it?
Yeah, so one thing I would like to say is that I don't think it's only through collaboration. I'm sure that a lot of authoritarian creatives and non-creatives will be able to change the world and hopefully for the better. So I don't think collaboration is key. Collaboration is definitely what I hope to have as part of the discussion when I'm involved, and if I am able to do that. So I don't know, the main reason for bringing up collaboration is this idea of peeling away a little bit the walls that are often there, especially in design spaces that are tied to R&D efforts, research and development efforts that claim to be innovative. And a lot of times, this just gets presented as a package that is fairly hard to engage with. It's kind of a yes or no solution, especially in the sustainability space. We're seeing a lot of, green development that just has towers with trees on them without much discussion around it or its relevance. And so it was more as an alternative to that. So I'm sure that through kind of the use of markets and healthy use of markets, they're great places. And of course, the startup ecosystem is a great way to foster that kind of innovation. But I'm saying that when I go about it, I want to use a little more collaboration to have these different efforts that are often developed in a vacuum to have to engage with each other and allow for others, especially those of us who will be likely to use these solutions in the future, to get to critique them, challenge them, contextualize them a bit.
So maybe we go for questions from the public.
I'm seeing one from Louis.
Can I ask?
Oh, Chetan?
Yeah. So I believe there are four distinct, what you call forces which are at play. And I see some of these forces are being acknowledged and being addressed. And these four forces, I believe, are ecology, economy, technology, and politics. This is what more or less would define where we are going. Now, I do not know how much of politics as well as economy is something that you are concerned with. I do see ecology and I also see technology.
No, completely, and thank you for calling that out. So there are two things. One might be sound a little too much like an excuse, which is the nascent stage of the format. But two, I think it's I mean, even with ecology, a lot of this was, I mean, first of all, that's where it started, right? That's the kind of the origin of the project. It was to try and say, okay, dry toilets, I've heard of them, but how do they work? How do they fit in my world, right? And so it was initially from the maker perspective, and how do we weave discussions around sustainability into those practices. Quickly, as soon as someone has something, then economy and politics come into play really quickly and knock on your door. And so these are things, that I am learning to contend with and see how we can address it, or leave room for that elsewhere. And I think Tom Lois, who is here, is someone who's I've been speaking to also to try and get some advice as well on how to take those formats forward. So that's definitely in the books. But yes, I agree with you that it is a bit missing in the current.
I think India is a great example of the traditional maker space being pushed out and being taken over by technology, and this is again driven by economy. It's interesting. There's no ecology there. So these are some of the things that I think it may be interesting. I'm just thinking aloud that some of your future sessions could well address imagining economy or models of economy.
Yeah.
I think that could be a way forward. Politics is something that will continue, whichever way we talk about it. As long as humans are there, there'll be politics. So I think we can't wish away. But I think interestingly, some of these, I believe, technology has changed the nature of politics. Unfortunately, politicians have been smarter than the rest of the people, and therefore they use technology more effectively than I think us who are the other side of politics, so to say.
And on that front, just a quick note. Actually, a lot of this work, I was inspired by a classmate of mine or a senior of mine called Matthew Manos, who runs the design studio called Very Nice Co. in LA, and he does a lot of drawing from Dungeons and Dragons and kind of generative approaches to create business models and in his consulting practice. So if you want to look up, I forget what, I think it was called Models of Impact, but he has a nice kind of a toolkit that I'm hoping to dig back into to add that layer. But yeah, completely agree.
Thank you. I think leave it to others now. I think.
Still about that disposable comment. What you said was disposable was what is created at the workshop, or the knowledge that people get. What did they find disposable?
Those two, what gets made, the knowledge perhaps, but also the experience. And when I say disposable, I don't mean that I don't think I tried to create something disposable, but I do feel like it was seen as disposable, like entertainment, like in the name of team building. You join this creative activity where you feel good, you laugh a bit, you slap each other on the back, someone wins, someone loses, and then you get on with your day. And so it was lacking that greater kind of embedding it into your day-to-day life, or seeing how it fits in your activity. And I mean, like I've run so many different kinds of workshops that yes, it's the limitation of any generalization that we're feeling, but there was this sense that a lot of this, using these formats as a consultant rather than a citizen, for instance, really felt like I was at the mercy of the client. I was at the mercy of the time frame, and to me, it did limit a little bit the discussions, and therefore made them feel somewhat disposable.
And what kind of community, if I can call it like that, gave you the most rewarding kind of feeling. So if I understand it, these kind of companies in high tech it was not very rewarding. So what was students?
Yeah, and it really has to do with the people rather than so there are plenty of high tech companies that were really rewarding. Again, that's perhaps the limitation of the generalization. But if anything, it was really more in the kind of really corporate context where leadership is very far away, and you know it's kind of you leave the kids to play for a Wednesday afternoon, and you know they're just having fun. But actually, the best community I've had was when we ran Museo Mix, and Ambeka might remember this. But so Museo Mix is kind of a hackathon that gets hosted inside of museums. It's been going on for I think 7 or 8 years now. It started in France, I believe, at a place called Noda, where I was interning.
Can you bring it to Eindhoven? It's so sharp note. Can you bring that to Eindhoven? Can you make it happen here in Eindhoven?
I think we can totally do that. Yeah, it's really easy. So we will make this happen. But I think on the back of that, the people I was able to meet, it was just incredible. Because, I mean, by nature of it, you are bringing creative coders, or at least creative technology profiles, with designers and storytellers. So you have people who would otherwise be in graphics team, people who would be in UI design, people who would be also just doing research and doing less visual things, coming together to learn about something that's from a totally different time period. It's the content of the museum, right? So already it creates a very different and unique dynamic. And it's people who are willing to spend their Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday together making this kind of stuff, outside of any kind, and paying to attend, right? So I think once you've hit, you know, all these barriers, usually you get a pretty strong community. And on the back of that, you know, we've had a lot of really great kind of discussions, collaborations, attempts at doing new formats like Digicut, which was another format we ran with Nen, and help from Ambeka. So yeah, I think to me, like, that was a really valuable experience in that way, how one project was really not disposable and grew some roots and was able to evolve beyond.
There are some more questions for Hugo, because if not, then I will yes.
Maybe I can ask a great presentation. I really loved how you repurposed like platforms like Fortnite for a very different purpose. And I was really fascinated by that tower. And I'm really interested in design-enabled innovations in addressing wicked problems, any kind of wicked problems. Well, that's also what you were referring to. So my question really is, where, let's say that the tower being the sum of its parts, is it greater than the sum of its parts, in the sense that was really the process to get towards that tower what really led to the sense making and problem solving, or was the tower as a whole leading to very new, surprising collective insights, maybe the start of a next round of sense making once it was finished? Could you say a bit about that, please?
Yeah, so actually, I'm glad you bring this up. The tower was, I think, the second or third iteration of 4 workshops that we ran. And it was a really nice turning point for 2 reasons. One, the earlier sessions were all about each person having their own home and making their home autonomous. So we were in our corner for 40 minutes or the duration of the workshop, and then we would share. And there were a lot of similarities, but a lot of cliches of what is sustainable living, what is disaster preparedness, and what does it look like, right? Then we built this tower, which was actually an idea that Salil Parek, who I've worked with a lot, came up with. And so what was really nice about it was that a lot of people ended up building on top of each other's floor, oh, sorry, I needed to build up and you were there. And so now we have, the kitchen in the library. And I think it forced us to communicate a lot more. But the result was fairly, limited in that it was still a little bit like a millefeuille. You just have your layers, and that was limited. But it made us realize the importance of that and how could we facilitate the networking. And so in the final session, which is also linked in the presentation, we were able, where you saw the fridge, for instance, we were able to push that a little more. So we took into account navigation, circulation. I kind of forced people to exchange. So the healthcare provider had to speak to the waste management about their respective needs and dependencies. And so even if we weren't able to do it through the tower, it made us aware that that was the next place we wanted to go. And I think that by the end, by the following session, it was greater than the sum of its parts. But I don't know that the tower itself necessarily immediately facilitated that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So, is any more questions for Hugo? If not, I would like to have one question for the students. Is someone from the students here? From students in India?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Oh, okay. It's pretty.
I think Matthew might have a question.
Okay, Matthew, please.
Hi, can you hear me okay, Hugo?
Yeah, perfectly.
Great. It's great to meet you. And, you know, we've obviously chatted online. I haven't seen you before, so it's really nice to see your presentation and your work. I had a question. You know, a lot of the work that you're doing is now, you know, using these existing platforms like Miro and Fortnite. But like, if you had like an endless budget and you could create your own platform, what would you do? Like, what would your dream platform be?
This is what I was looking up yesterday. Thank you for this question. No, it's come up a lot of times actually, and this idea. And I mean, one, the number of times this question comes up really makes me feel like this repurposing has a lot of power because people are not expecting to do it. We're all expecting to always start things from scratch, and so I think, you know, from this hacker culture point of view, the repurposing and the détournement behind it is really valuable. So I think that's one thing. But if I had my way, actually, what I've been really dying to do is, and sorry, this is not coming from a problem-solving perspective, but more from a personal joy perspective. It would be to find a way to use 3D scans of places to situate them in a kind of video game. So create these spaces and place them. So you have a lot of like Mozilla hubs already offers some versions of this, so nothing too fancy. But to me, what's really exciting is the idea of climbing. So I don't know how many of you here are familiar with the game Assassin's Creed, but so what I've been spending a lot of time on is actually finding existing kind of character animations that just climb things. And to me, that's what's missing in a lot of these discussions that I enjoy about Fortnite is that you're able to kind of go around and you can fly. But I think being able to kind of get around the spaces and engage with the surfaces, the topography.
Are you talking about like more real physics, or more kind of real physics that you can actually see the character grabbing something, touching something?
Yeah, and just exactly that's one thing that I haven't been able to find. In everything else, I feel like, you know, Fortnite is meeting the needs of, you know, what I might have in the short term. Of course, I'd love to, like I said, be able to find something between Miro and Fortnite where I'm able to have more custom assets and make that easy for the participants and all of that. And that's just a matter of optimization. But from an experience perspective, I feel like the motions, the way we have the body in the space is something that I'd love to be able to push or play with a little more. But no, I'm pretty content with the platforms I have. So I'm sorry if it wasn't as crazy of a solution. Also, I've just discovered Mozilla or properly used Mozilla hubs yesterday. And so I'm also pretty happy with this find. So for now, I think I'm putting aside the, you know, making my own platform.
So you're looking at virtual real.
Sorry?
Virtual real.
What
virtual
about it?
Unreal. So you're looking for a platform which is ideal, which is virtual.
Yeah, yeah, a little more of in between the two, exactly. Yeah.
So virtual and real. So virtual real.
Virtual real. Done. Do you have the URL saved?
You've got the name now.
Yeah. But thank you for the question because it keeps coming back and I keep wondering about it. But yeah, and I think outside of the money, it's really the time commitment that's really tough. And so for me, being able to use existing platforms that I can iterate on quickly and adapt within their constraints instead of having to come up with my own constraints is really key for now, because it takes a lot of the thinking out of the way.
I have one question, Hugo. I think you mentioned designer citizen. Now, it's very different kind of interpretation or definition. So, designer is not the same as citizen. Citizen, in terms of its ideal imagination, is very different. So, are there any possibilities of looking at that as an exploration, the space to explore? How do you actually bring about citizenry, especially in a country like India? I'm not too sure how it would be in other countries, but certainly that is one of the biggest challenges that you have. That it's also, I mean, I would say, I think it's the same challenge in US. So looking at how people engage with leadership, that's one of the primary responsibilities of citizenship in terms of how they're able to imagine and engage with world as it evolves around them, how well they are informed, and how responsible they are in terms of connecting and endorsing things which are not only good for them, they're good for society at large, which is what I think I would believe is a true citizenship in that sense. So how do you actually look at that? Because I think that space is, I've been talking about it in my university. There has to be a program on design for citizenship. I don't know.
I completely agree, and there are a couple of things that come to mind.
So many countries, yeah, go ahead. The reason I'm talking about it, I think all the more it becomes critical because suddenly in last about 7-8 years, the whole world is shrinking and moving away from what we call global, open, borderless, all those concepts are just diminishing and everybody is looking inward, the nationalistic, patriotic, there's overzealousness about, protecting your turf. I mean, it's completely opposite of what it was imagined or what it was about a decade ago. And there's something which we do not know what is not working, but certainly something not working. And part of
sorry for cutting you, Chetan. I'll try to answer. Sorry, because I think we have to go soon also. So there were just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. One, I think an interesting example around this sort of, so taking a step back, I think this question of organization as humans, like organizing with each other and designing these kinds of communities is really important, and something that I'm seeing more and more in the design space that I'm finding really interesting. And you can see it even just in the adoption of platforms like Discord that offer these kind of passive research efforts. Second thing, and so I think it's happening and it's emerging, and I don't know if they're like very clear points, but one interesting sign is looking at Extinction Rebellion and how much how central the idea of citizen assemblies is to their requests, and not just organizing citizen assemblies, but then what kind of leverage they can have. Because right now, both the promise and the kind of shortcomings are that you can maybe get 150 people over 6 months to think about a problem, but if the leadership is not listening to them and just using it to kind of check a box of participatoriness, then it doesn't have value. But so I think looking at these formats of organization among citizens and not depending on brands to do that for us, or not depending as much on leaders to do that for us is a big thing. And designers were so dependent on our clients and our owners, the owners of the project. So I think that's a really big thing that I try to bring up with the students. And the third point to me is the value of that imaginary. So the reason I focused on maker and things, it's also in relationship to the consumer culture we have, and not making it just, oh, it's about reduction, it's about refusal, it's about primitivism, it's about saying no. It's all the things that make us, very excited about new products, I think can be leveraged to make these alternative futures desirable, or at least I think so. And it's a lot of people are already doing it. Restart Project is a great example of organizing communities of repair globally. Fab Lab network as well. And so to me, there's also almost like a marketing play or like a storytelling play that needs to happen. And in big part, I think design has a role to play, especially autonomous designers who are willing to do things outside of client briefs, you know. So, I mean, that does not solve everything whatsoever, but these were a few things that came to mind. And in India, you have great people like Chal Chal Social Design Collective, Architecture for Dialogue, that are, you know, doing this and grappling with that.
Can we offer one question, or it's time to close? Do you have time, Hugo, by the way?
Yeah, I think I have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. If someone has one question.
I have one 5-minute question. What was the craziest thing that you built with cardboard?
I'm sorry?
What was the craziest thing that you built with cardboard?
Cardboard.
With cardboard? Oh. I don't know, I have to look. I mean, a lot of my prototypes had that. I think the umbrella that I 3D printed, I was really happy when I was able to first make it out of cardboard. I don't know if it's the craziest thing, but I was very happy.
I'm curious to see it.
It's called
Maybe
Felix, if you want to look for it.
Sorry, someone wants to make the last question. If not, I will do it. My question to you is, Hugo, how can we translate this knowledge or vision into something concrete that starts changing the city?
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of happened upon Eindhoven by chance to some degree, and I think this is the best place I could be in also, between, you know, the schools that we have here and the kind of government support and funding. Cultuur Eindhoven, it's really, I've seen it nowhere else basically, and so my hope is really to test these experiments with stichting, I think it's called in Dutch, but a lot of these kind of citizen organizations, and seeing how and working with the municipality to see how that can be used. But at the same time, I'm being very cautious because I've even just yesterday I found very, very similar efforts from 2017 that clearly have not continued. So I am taking it with a grain of salt and trying to keep my energy for the long road ahead.
Nice to have you around then. Thanks, thanks a lot. Yes, I will want to thank all. We have a workshop next Friday, December 18th. This is using what mentioned Hugo, framework developed by Futures Projects. And yeah, hopefully that you would like to join as well. Yeah, from my side it's all. I don't know, Hugo wants to close words, Margot, as well?
Well, I just want to thank Hugo and Mara and everyone that joined us today. It was really great to hear all your questions and to see the discussion happening. Hugo, do you want to say anything else? Otherwise, I will continue.
Just a very big thank you to everyone. I'm honored and touched, and thank you for your time.
Great, thanks. For everyone that's here now, we really hope to see you next week. That's the last time of the Innovation Café for this year, and then we'll have a little winter break. On our website, www.ehvinnovationcafe.org, you can see the program for it. It's organized by Code 21. And we are hoping that you will all join us then as well for the talk and the Q&A. And afterwards, we will be back on the 14th of January, and that one will once again be organized by Art and Tech Society. So we also hope to see you then. And if you can't make it next week, then I already want to wish you happy holidays. And yeah, thank you for joining and enjoy the rest of the evening.